Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Well, some of you may know what we do on this channel. My name is Mehran, and we talk about things to do with the movement of mind, such as thoughts, consciousness, fear, desire, ego, pleasure, mechanical process, order, and whatever it is that is a fragment of our psyche and has helped to make us to be who we are, and we discuss about that. In other words, we discuss who we are, why we're affected in the way we are, and why we act, behave, feel, and react the way we do, and try to get to the root of the matter. And then we use this knowledge and these, what I just said, to use it to clarify and shine a light on some of the challenges that we face in our daily lives, such as relationships, breakups, and more. But tonight, I want to talk about why men feel, young or old, doesn't matter what size, what age, and what stage of life they are, why they feel so complaining about women. In other words, this tonight's discussion is defending women and picking on my younger friends and trying to explore together, why is it that most of you guys, after a breakup, feel so pathetic and blame the woman? Of course, I do understand that there are many women who actually are at fault, and they betray or they cheat or they are just not there to build something, and they're just there for their own plans and designs. And also there are men who are of not the good type and behave badly and so on and so forth. But that's not what we are really focusing on. We're just focusing on a regular, normal, decent, balanced or somewhat balanced and a relationship without much of a irregularities as far as negative behavior and so on, to the point of any kind of extraordinary conflicts and divisions. But yet we will see that after even such a seemingly normal relationship, most men are so devastated and blame the woman and feel like the women are at fault for having let go of the relationship, and that's why they feel the way they do. So let's explore really who has, what's the role of each one there, and is there any real basis on this kind of relationships that breaks up if the men really have have figured it out right to blame the women? I have a different opinion and different idea which I want to share with you, and I think that we need to explore and see the roots of why men feel so devastated and complain that it is the woman that has made them feel this way. All right, so get your cup of coffee or tea and let's explore together. Isn't it true that when you meet a woman and you like her because she meets the standards of the aesthetics for you, she has the looks and you're excited, physically attracted to her, and suddenly you feel that because of that attraction, every single other thing that could one want in a woman, in your case you would want in a woman, is there, without even knowing much about her. The fact that she meets your standards and the aesthetic requirements And that already to you is a proof or evidence that she is highly equipped and intelligent and qualified in every other aspect of possibly you can think of one would need to qualify for a long-lasting, a wonderful relationship. And regardless of what she does, you don't see any disqualification. You still feel that she is just fantastically qualified and she must be right. You did something wrong. Isn't that true? Isn't that how you feel when you meet a woman that you like, and then if let's say you have a date with her, and at the last moment she cancels. She calls you up and say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I can't make it," or whatever it is that she says. Would you not actually think that what she had to do, what had come up in her life, the excuse or whatever reason she had, is of credible nature, and it's more important than the arrangement that you guys had? Isn't that your natural inclination, gravitation towards that kind of a logic, that because you like her, because she's got the aesthetics, you don't know much about her, but now that she cancels last moment, you still want her, and you still say, that possibly she probably had a reason for that. So you defend her in your mind. Have you ever asked yourself why? Why would you do that? Not really knowing and being really annoyed, but you still think, well, you justify it somehow. Well, she's probably something very important came up. Now, whether it's true or not, we don't care, but in cases that this comes up, this is how you react. Why? Because something doesn't allow you to see anything further than your interest, physical interest for the romantic relationship that you're pursuing. That's how we are put together. Somehow something is there that when you actually are pursuing someone or having a chance to meet this woman or get to know this woman and beginning to get to know her, there is no possibility for you, incapable of seeing anything else of her, even though the clues are all written all over it, right at the outset, and you refuse to see it, or you just simply can't see it, let alone refusing to see it. Isn't that true? Even to the point that when you guys somehow get to know each other a little bit longer, and then certain self-centeredness, certain selfishness, certain lack of attention, or her importance always makes you feel that, yeah, she's I have to pursue. There must be something that I did wrong, or there must be something that she might be right. And you kind of come up with all these excuses, which if a friend of you would tell you about a similar situation, you would have a different opinion. But when it's to yourself, you simply can't see any further than your interest. Why is that? And even to the point that when you guys actually get to know each other and have a relatively long relationship, and then when you guys break up after a year or 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever, or even 6 months, you have a very hard time to go on, to go forward, to move on, and you feel you're devastated, and you feel it's because she's not around, and you blame her for all the things that you're feeling. Why is that? Don't you think that she has the right in her life to choose any which way she wants, to be with you or not to be with you? Wouldn't you somehow do the same if you were convinced that this is not the right person for you, or it was and you change your mind now, I don't know, you see somebody else that you want to go and find possibilities of relationship with that girl. Therefore, you feel that you have the right to do whatever it is that is good for you, but you think she doesn't have the right. Well, I think it's time for you to change your opinion about the fact that the woman is there only to be part of your plans. She has her own plans and she has the right to change her mind, and this happens often. And I'm not saying it's good, we should praise it. Oh, great, you're leaving me, wonderful, yeah, have a nice evening. No, you won't do that. I'm not saying to do that. But don't you think that she has the right to do it? If she has the right to do it, then why would you then try to blame her for how you feel? Isn't it possible that how you feel has got nothing to do with what she's doing, and your reaction to what she's doing should be totally different if you know why it is that you can't deal with breakups and not really have to look at it from the angle of it's her fault that I feel this way. Like you feel you're a victim, like there's nothing you can do about it. Let's talk about it. Is there something you can do about it? Well, remember at the beginning of our discussion we said, like, if she cancels a date on you, you're still thinking that, oh, there must be something more important. Somehow you always think that what she says and what she does and what she wants is more important than the logic of what is involved in that topic or whatever it is that is being done. Why is that? Why can't you see it clear right off the bat if this is fair or not fair to you, as you try to be so good in being fair and just to her, making sure you're treating her right, proper behavior, being unselfish, and so on and so forth. But when that happens from the other side, from the woman's side towards you, you somehow have an idea that it's okay, it should be justified. It should be justified. Should be. Why? Why should it be? What is it there? What is there that makes you think that her presence in your life, her attention to you, the idea that you want to be intimate with her, you want to be romantic with her, because that's the premise you're going on. That's why you're not seeing anything else. The idea that you want to be romantic with her makes it impossible for you to go beyond that and see anything else about her, if she's really qualified or not. All you think is that she's qualified without knowing anything about her. Why? Because your interest to be intimate with her, that's how you program. Heterosexual male, you're programmed to, in your genes, to follow and be interested in women and want to be to get to know them and be intimate with them. Of course, providing it's all proper and consent and all that. So you seem to think that because you are programmed to want that intimacy, that part of the pleasure that you're focused on and you're seeking from that relationship, that's your main driving motor, the intimacy. That's the program of your genes. Now later on you get to know each other, that's another story, but right off the bat, it seems like that desire for that intimacy seems to make her, the pleasure that you receive from that intimacy, that relationship, seems to override any and everything else that you could ever have and be able to offer and qualify with and bring to the table. Like, you might be very educated, a scholar, very kind, very wealthy, and very compassionate, very a good person, and have all the credentials that a man could have to bring about a good, comfortable life and provide for his future family. But regardless of what you have trained and accomplished and bring to the table, you always think none of that is more valuable than the pleasure you receive from her and the attention that you get and her smile and approval. But what does that mean? That means your desire for intimacy, your desire for intimacy, desire to receive pleasure through the relationship you have with the girl, is more valuable than anything else that you can think of in that relationship or what you might be offering. Which we can conclude from there that you value your desire for pleasure far more than what else you can offer. In other words, you think the fact that she can provide that pleasure that you seek, that you're trying to fulfill your desire through the pleasure that you receive, you feel that is more important than anything else you could offer. Isn't that true? So what does that mean? That means it is not her that it is so valuable to you that you put up with anything and you cannot see anything. You become oblivious to anything else that might be wrong in that relationship because you're so focused and so subservient and a slave to your desire, not to her. She's innocent. It is your desire that has made you slave to itself, that in order to comply to what your desire requests and commands, which is a pleasure, receiving pleasure, you are willing to put up with anything and consider her qualified in every single way and find her smart, intelligent, capable, compassionate, loving, giving, unselfish, and deserving everything possibly you can until you get that pleasure. And because it's not a real logical feeling based on equal trade or real sincere evaluation, right after you achieve your goal for relationship and intimacy, you somehow wonder, why did I give so much to receive that? Because now you have been able to fulfill the desire through pleasure, and your need for that is now in a different level, and you start having a mood swings. That's why women sometimes leave you, because they see you're very nice and then not as keen and focused on the relationship, depending on what your need is. And that is basically about if you fulfill your desire or not. So getting back to the idea of the desire, so that it seems to me that it is not her that is enslaving you or causing you to feel pain after a breakup. It is the fact that your desire, that have enslaved you to take actions to fulfill this desire through pleasure, and from that fluff the ego, and the ego comes along and says, see, you have to do this, you have to fulfill the desire because I want to feel good. And you're doing it for me, and you get pleasure, and pleasure is everything. And therefore, you are actually feeling so devastated and in pain because of you not being able to control your own desire and are being controlled by your desire rather than she doing anything to you. She hasn't done a thing to you. She's been there, she's been kind, she's been in a relationship with you, and as anybody else, she has the right at one point or some point may decide not want to be with you. That should be fine. But because your desire says, and the ego together say, you're disrespecting me. The ego is not fluff now that she's leaving you. You gotta have that back. And desire says, you want that pleasure. You want to feel good through the pleasure, and I want the pleasure. So you're actually really complying and reacting to the wishes and the commands of desire and ego, which is inside you, which is within you. She's got nothing to do with it. She's not guilty of anything. The fact that she left, she wanted to. But you cannot let go because you cannot control your own desire. You're constantly thinking, oh, it was so nice. That body, that wonderful intimacy. Oh, she was around. And all is that because of the desire. Otherwise, if you can control your desire and have the desire to follow you and be subservient to you rather than you to the desire, you will simply understand the logic. Well, okay, we were good together. She didn't, for one reason or another, she didn't want to be with me anymore. She left. That's her right. And you can understand that logically. But it is a desire that says, no, I want more of that intimacy. I want more of that pleasure. And you are never accustomed to allow temporary to remain temporary. You try to make the temporary into permanent, and that's when the suffering starts. Why do you try to turn a temporary, which every relationship and every pleasure has a duration? And while it has a duration, and as long as you're just experiencing it, you would call it joy. But the fact that the thought comes in, says, oh, I want more of that joy. I want that every day, all the time. And I want it to become a pleasure, a continuous pleasure, and make it permanent. Now that the thought come in and wants that pleasure to become permanent, a permanent situation, permanent happening, that is when you have become subservient to your desire and you can't let go and you can't understand that she has the right to leave, and this was a relationship, had its duration, and it was joyful, but now you can't let go because you cannot control your desire for pleasure, that you want it to be continuous. And then of course ego comes along, says, yeah, I don't feel good if you can't constantly bring that pleasure through desire for me, so I can be fluffed and feel good about myself. So if you look at it, it really has nothing to do with her. You can logically understand however she looks and whatever she wants to do. When she leaves your relationship, you can say, well, okay, that's her right, and that relationship is ended. We will move on, and I'll find another, and she'll find another, and that's fine. And of course, it will be tough at a while because you have created an order, you have a certain kind of a conditioning towards that relationship, and all the things that you guys used to do together, all the outings and activities. But then it will all be okay. But why can it not be okay even after a year? Because naturally, it could take a few weeks or a few months. But why not even for years? Because you haven't learned that you are the master of your desire, not the desire master of you. You are the master of the ego, not the ego master of you. And since you haven't figured that out, and you still keep the pain in there because you still strive and desire that pleasure, want that pleasure, your desire wants you to get that pleasure, and the ego is giving you shit, and that's why it lingers longer than it does, and you wonder why I can't get over it. It's her fault that left me, and I'm a victim. I can't do anything about it because without her, I can't get rid of these feelings. Now, you can, when you understand that she has all the right in the world to do whatever she wants to do, and that it is your desire that keeps you wanting that pleasure, but you don't have to want that pleasure. When you understand this, that you don't have to want that pleasure, and you won't become a subservient to your desire and pleasure and ego, then you will be free from it, and you can move on, and you can bless her in your heart and wish her well, which you should, and respect her wishes and respect yourself as well, and move on and find other relationships. That's all. As simple as that. See, it's not her that you're wondering and seeing all these bad thoughts about her, that she left me, she betrayed. No. It's your desire that is not allowing you to see it clear, that it's okay. That's normal. It happens with any relationship. It is you not being able to control your desire and continue being subservient to your desire for pleasure and letting ego to boss you around that makes you feel that you can't do anything unless you have her and you can't go on. No, it's got nothing to do with her. It's got to do with you and your inability to deal with what your psyche is all about, and take care of the fragments of your psyche and your center, and be able to bring that balance back to your life. So perhaps you can look at it this way, ponder on it, and maybe that will help you to move on from your breakup and wish her well and wish yourself well. I'll talk to you soon.